For the most part on this channel, I feel that while yes, there are some takes that fans have, whether it be on Twitter, Reddit, or just in the comments in these videos, takes that I don't really agree with, but the majority of the time I feel that I am generally aligned with the wider sentiment across Bulls Nation. But I have to admit, I am honestly shocked at how many people, Bulls fans, non-Bulls fans, members of the media, are in agreement with the most recent report out that the Chicago Bulls have shown interest in Russell Westbrook should he be bought out by the Utah Jazz after he was just included in a 3-team trade last night. Now again, this is just what's been reported. Me personally, I find it very hard to believe that the Bulls front office would even consider something like this and would really just be a desperation move at this point. But this did come from very credible sources in the media like Chris Haynes, Mark Stein, but the report itself aside and whether the Bulls are in fact interested in obtaining Westbrook off of the buyout market, what baffles me is just how many Bulls fans felt that this would be a good move for the Bulls. And while yes, there are some small benefits to adding a player like Russ, the negatives outweigh the positives tenfold, and that's what we'll be discussing in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Real quick, if you missed my last video, I was lucky enough to have the legendary Sam Smith on the channel in a one-on-one interview where we talked about the Bulls season and the trade deadline, so feel free to check that out in case you missed it. Always great to have insight from a man who has been covering the Bulls for over 40 years now. But anyway, let's get back into the topic at hand. So the trade deadline is just a few hours away. Very possible there could be a lot of developments by the time you're watching this. I'm recording this late at night on Wednesday, shortly after all the news of the Bulls being interested in Westbrook. I'll also have a video out on the 3-team trade that sent Westbrook to the Jazz on my second channel, the NBA channel. A link to that channel is in the description if you want to check it out. Now, first, I do want to be clear because it seems like all season long, we've been hearing trade rumors for which the Bulls would move Zach Lavine for Westbrook and those 2 first-round picks, which throughout the year, all Bulls fans were scoffing at because why the hell would we move Lavine in exchange for Westbrook and get 2 first-round picks well out into the future? The picks in question being from 2027 and 2029. Like the mere thought of Westbrook joining the Chicago Bulls at that time, knowing what a disaster he had been for the Lakers, made Bulls fans want to throw up. Now, I get it. This is different. We're talking about a buyout scenario. You're not trading anything to get Westbrook. You're not having to pay him a big contract, although the contract really wouldn't make much of a difference because it would have been an expiring deal anyway, which would be the same in a buyout scenario, even if it is for a vet minimum deal. Like either way, it would have been a half-year rental. But I get it. It's different. You're not trading Zach Lavine for Westbrook. You're simply adding him to the team at very little risk because he would be gone by the offseason. Like the comment I've seen from most Bulls fans is, why not? Bulls suck anyway, we're not going anywhere. Why not see what Russ can do, considering Lonzo isn't going to be coming back and we need a point guard? And hey, maybe this could work after all. Russ did do well under Billy Donovan in Oklahoma City, won MVP, averaged a triple-double for 2 seasons in a row. Worth trying, right? Couldn't hurt. Well, here's why it could hurt. You see, for those that maybe haven't been watching a lot of the Bulls this season, which I don't necessarily blame you, this team has been hard to watch. But among the many reasons for why the Bulls have struggled this year is in part due to the fact that the Bulls severely lack 3-point shooting. They shoot the 3-ball at a decent clip from a percentage standpoint, currently 12th in the league, but they are dead last in 3-pointers attempted in the NBA and 28th in 3s made. Why? Because the Bulls don't really have shooters, and I mean true sharp shooters from outside. The Bulls' biggest challenge this season has been lack of shooting, limited floor spacing, limited interior defense. They allow too many 3s, 27th in the league in 3s attempted, and their 3 best players, their star players if you will, as talented as they are, all of them produce well, they're all one-way players who don't put in the effort on defense. DeRozan and Lavine, ball dominant, heavy isolation scorers, at times not the best decision makers, poor shot selection at times, and guys that slow down the tempo and operate in the half court. Adding another quote-unquote star player who also is a ball-dominant, inefficient scorer, can't shoot from outside, poor decision maker, not the best IQ, not anymore anyway, back in his prime, sure he was. And while Russ is decent operating in transition, pushing the pace, good playmaker, let's also not forget that he has one of the highest turnover rates in the entire NBA. How does any of that possibly fit what the Bulls need? Here's the other thing that I think often gets overlooked. Westbrook, since leaving the Thunder, has been a net negative when he's on the court when you look at his on-court, off-court numbers. And it's been especially bad when you look at his last 2 seasons since joining the Lakers. You're talking about a negative box plus minus in both seasons, one of the highest turnover percentages in the league relative to his overall usage, and one of the worst true shooting percentages. And when he's on the court for the Lakers, their overall offensive rating was significantly lower than when he was off the court. Simply put, the Lakers were a better team when Russ was off the court. Now, it hasn't been as bad this season as it was last year since Russ has been coming off the bench and has actually done decently well in that role, but even with that, still an overall net negative for the Lakers when he's on the court. Here's the other thing the Bulls lack right now: leadership and accountability. I don't know about you guys, but I would not consider Westbrook a leader at all. If anything, Russ has demonstrated very little self-awareness both on the court as well as off the court when talking to the media. Took little accountability for his poor play last season as well as this season. The Bulls already have some big egos on this team that like to have the ball in their hands and take over games. You're wanting to add another guy with a big ego who doesn't show up as a leader and takes little accountability. I will say I'll give Russ credit for finally accepting his role coming off the bench in LA. He didn't initially, but eventually came around to it and has actually been one of the better 6 men in the league. But it doesn't change the fact that his overall game and attitude is the same. Russ still thinks he's a star player, and he's just not on that level anymore. And the last thing you need for this Bulls roster is to bring in a past prime, inefficient player who tries to do too much that still thinks they're a star in this league. That is a recipe for disaster. Now, going back to this notion I've been seeing of, well, why not? It's not like the Bulls are good. Why not throw this at the wall and see if it sticks? Well, the reason you don't do that is because there is a very good chance you get worse as a team by adding a guy like Westbrook. And I'm sure some will say, well, what's wrong with that? We can tank for a top 4 pick since, obviously the Bulls can only keep their pick if it lands in the top 4. Like, if your mindset is we should just tank, then really tank. Blow up the roster. Adding Westbrook, but then keeping the rest of your core isn't going to help your chances at getting a top pick. And in that instance, you just increase your chances of sending that pick to Orlando. The Bulls have won too many games to really have a shot at tanking and landing a top pick. The chances are so small now. And look, signing a guy 4 or 5 years past his prime is not going to get you anywhere. To me, it's just truly pointless to sign Westbrook just because. That's just making a move to make a move, and a desperate one at that. I honestly would rather just the Bulls stay put and keep the roster that they have than adding someone like Westbrook, who has just been a big disruption to teams that he's been on more recently since leaving Oklahoma City. Which, by the way, it's starting to look like the Bulls are going to be staying put, and you have all of these other crazy trades going down while I'm recording this. Kevin Durant to the Suns. Wow. Jakob Poeltl is also heading to the Raptors. Trade deadline is heating up. It's about time. Things were kind of dragging on there a bit, but man, the Nets completely imploded. What a crazy turn of events for that franchise. Anyway, I'll have more details out on those trades on my NBA channel. Let's see if the Bulls can make any moves. I'll have videos out as the news starts breaking. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.